Hello, my name is Ian Hodgins and I'm a trustee of Ford Park Cemetery. Now, buried in this cemetery we have some amazing residents. We call them residents. And this is the story of one of them, a man called Jimmy Peters, who became the first black player to play for England. In fact, he was the only black player to have played for England for the next 82 years. He was born in Salford to a West Indian father and an English mother. His childhood was very tough. He spent his early years in the circus training as a bareback horse rider while his brother was an acrobat. But tragedy struck when at the age of 11 his father was killed by a lion. Shortly afterwards he broke his arm, and being of no further use to the circus he was abandoned. But he was taken to an orphanage in Greenwich. It was there that he learned carpentry and fell in love with the game of rugby by watching Blackheath, which the orphans were allowed to do for free. At 15, he captained the orphanage team and was noted as an all-round athlete. After a few years, he moved to Bristol, where he played for that city's club until 1902. And then the next year, he transferred to Devonport to work for the dockyard, and he joined the Plymouth Rugby Club. Later that year, he was selected to play for Devon, and he helped them to win the 1906 county championship. Newspaper articles describe him as a revelation, a champion athlete, one of the best half-backs England has ever had, and absolutely brilliant. So by 1906, the name of Jimmy Peters had become more widely known, and he famously made his debut for England, for whom he played 5 international matches. However, later in 1906, he was picked for the Devon team to face South Africa, and 18,000 fans were packed into the Plymouth Stadium. But the South Africans refused to play because Peters was black. This caused a standoff. The Devon side refused to back down. Peters was, as they said, one of the best and fairest men to wear a rugby boot. And it was a total impasse. It took the intervention of the South African High Commissioner to save the day and persuade the Springboks to take the field. But this highlights the inherent racism that Peters had to face. A Plymouth newspaper article looks at the selection for an international game between England and Wales, where Peters was just overlooked. A loud whisper has swept through Devon that Peters is acknowledged to be the best stand-off half-back that has ever possibly have been chosen for this particular game. But that, for a certain reason, influenced the selection, and this reason is obvious to those who know Peters. But Peters was picked for the England-Scotland game later on that year. But then the Yorkshire Post stated Peters, by the way, is of West Indian extraction. His selection is by no means popular on racial grounds. His international career continued. He played France in March in the first ever meeting between the two nations in rugby union. Peters scored one of the tries. And then in February 1907 he played for England against Ireland, and then against Scotland the next month. His final international match was against Wales in January 1908, and that same year, after helping Devon win the county championship, he was voted Man of the Year by Plymouth Football Herald. His rugby career finished soon after that. He sustained a nasty injury in the dockyard where he lost 3 of his fingers. But he stayed in Plymouth, working as a carpenter until his death in 1954. And he's buried there in Ford Park Cemetery. And even after his death, and up to the late 1980s, he had been the only black international British rugby player. He's truly an inspiring man.